Hello YouTube. This is a video response to the Jarl DM, Lloyd Collins. This is in response to your video, Lloyd, about how much prep. So, how much prep is it's a varied question, really. It kind of depends on what kind of game you're running. It depends on what kind of GM you are. It depends on what kind of players you have. There's so many factors that are going to change it. But what I'll try to do is I'll just give you some advice based on what I've seen that works and what hasn't worked for me. And hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. Obviously for one-shots, you don't want to do too much prep because it's going to be a single session, ideally. That's what makes it a one-shot. And, one-shots are going to be pretty linear anyway. So what I generally do for one shot is I just prepare a few set pieces. Maybe it's a puzzle, maybe it's an encounter, whatever it may be, and oftentimes it's probably encounters. I have a boss monster and maybe a couple other monsters and things I want people to encounter in the one shot. And then, I might come up with a basic structure on how to get the party there, but really I riff off the players for that because a lot of times players want to do something different or they have different approaches to things. You just never know. And I don't want anything to be closed off either. Although a one-shot is going to naturally be pretty linear anyway, they're going to have these few encounters that you have planned out, and that's it. I'd like to at least give them the option as to how they're going to approach that and solve that situation. An excellent example in a one-shot that I ran recently, although it's kind of I'll touch on this later, but it's kind of going to be a campaign more than anything, but it's a campaign of one-shots. There was the ogre that the party were hired to go out and kill and bring back its head. But when they got to the ogre, it was crying, and it was just completely beside itself and morose, and they had the option then. They could kill it straight away. They had the element of surprise. Or they could try to approach it and talk with it and see what's wrong with this ogre. Why is an ogre crying in the middle of the woods? Like, usually these are fearsome beasts, The party chose, in that case, to converse with the ogre, and they found out that there was more to the story than what they had been led to believe, and it completely kind of shaped the adventure in a different way. Now, I probably still would have had the same encounters, just would have had them come across them differently, but yeah. That's how it worked out in the end. Anyway, they decided to talk with the ogre, and they actually joined forces with this ogre. This ogre joined them to go off and fight and kill a bunch of lizard men. It's a whole other story, but yeah, I like to leave it open-ended, give them some options. With a campaign, it can be different, or maybe not. It depends on how you're running your campaign, what kind of campaign you're running. With the Defiance Chronicles, I pretty much come up with an idea very similar to my one-shots idea, because I'm running the Defiance Chronicles as an episodic campaign, whereas each session is like the episode in a series of, a television program or something. So I usually come up with an idea. Here's a set piece, here's a conflict, here's maybe a villain or a storyline that I want to introduce for this episode. And I will kind of come up with what kind of supporting characters, villains, monsters, etc. that I'm going to need to have access to for that session, depending on what the group do. And then again, I usually open up with a scene. I let characters role play, get into character, let the players get into character. And then I hit them with a whammy or a bang or whatever you want to call it, but an event happens that kicks them into action. And then from there, it's up to them as to what decisions they make and where they want to go with it. For meta plot in that campaign at the moment, we're only 5 episodes in, so I have lots of little meta plot elements that are kind of formulating over each session that eventually, it will help me to plan other sessions, because I'll say, okay, yeah, remember that guy, or remember this little story piece. I need to go back and address that. So, that's the way I'm running that campaign. The Adventurers Guild campaign, which is the one-shot campaign I'm kind of running over the one-shot group, is completely different. Each session is a mission with the Adventurers Guild. It can be completely new characters, or it could be some veteran characters, some new characters, all veteran characters, whatever. It's a different idea that I'm doing for this campaign, which I got that idea from Thomas, the way he runs his Shadowrun campaign or one-shots and everything at the moment. So for that, again, it's very similar to my one-shot preparation. I have a few encounters, here's a storyline, here's a job, basically. The Adventurers Guild is asked to take care of this problem, and then the person assigns the job to whatever characters have shown up for the session. They're the ones who answer the call for that job. And yeah, that's a lot of fun because I haven't restricted people at all to party roles. You know, if people want to come at me with 4 fighters, they can do that. I think one of the sessions I ran had 3 fighters in it. Christ, what else was in there? There was 3 fighters, maybe a rogue, and a wizard, I think. I don't think there was any clerics or anything of that sort. But, you know, I just kind of let the players play whatever they want, and we go with it from there. So, other people are more controlling with their campaigns and want to have a lot of influence on the story, the meta plot, the villains. And I've run those kind of campaigns before, too, where I've had an entire supporting cast of villains and characters, you know, supporting NPCs throughout this entire city, and that was a lot of prep in the beginning because I had to develop this place. These are the kind of shops that are in the city. These are the kind of characters that are in the city. These are the kind of villains that exist. These are, you know, the problems that the players are going to encounter. So that was a lot more prep heavy, but I find I'm enjoying the episodic kind of version much more because, you know, I don't have as much time as I used to have to do that preparation. So it's nice to be able to kind of snap a few things together and just run a campaign kind of free, session even, or a one-shot session. Just run it kind of free form, riff off the players, don't overplan the scenario, you know, and just see where it goes. You know, go with the flow, let it take you where it will. Who knows, your players may take you down some entirely different path. And that's where experience comes in handy, but it's good to have, just to be creative and to be able to improvise. You know, never be afraid too, if that happens in your scenarios, your situation, if it's a campaign or whatever, or even a one-shot where the party says, you know, let's go this way. You know, you had planned for them to take the Eastern Road off to the Iron Mountains and deal with the tribe of gnolls over there and their hill giant allies. And they say, you know what, we heard about this mysterious lake to the northwest in the middle of the enchanted forest. So we want to go check that out instead. And you're sitting there kind of like gobsmacked thinking, I didn't prepare anything for the enchanted forest and for the mysterious lake. You know, don't be afraid to stop the session. Maybe take a recess. Say, guys, let's take a break. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe a half an hour, what do you need? Or maybe, depending on how long you've been playing, just end the session there and say, okay, well, we'll pick up then in the next session. There's no harm in saying, look, I don't have anything really prepared for that. I don't feel comfortable just winging this at the moment. I need some time to gather my stuff and figure out where to go. There's no harm in that. It's better to end a session early and do that. You can always play Fiasco or something. Rather than to run like a mediocre session, especially if you're in an ongoing campaign. Nothing hurts an ongoing campaign like a mediocre session, I think. So, anyway, that's my thoughts. So, Ian Christensen from Fantastic Dimensions signing out, and I hope it helped.